Imagine earning $5 million a year for 10 years. $50 million. Now imagine being broke at 35. This isn't a hypothetical. It's the reality for 78% of NFL players within 2 years of retirement. Not because they're reckless. Not because they're uneducated. But because earning extraordinary money and knowing how to keep it are two completely different skills, and the NFL only teaches one of them. Today we go inside the psychology, the real stories, and the lessons that apply to every single person who has ever received more money than they expected. The numbers are staggering and well documented. A 2009 Sports Illustrated investigation found that 78% of NFL players face serious financial distress within 2 years of leaving the league. Within 5 years of retirement, an estimated 60% are bankrupt or under severe financial stress. The average NFL career lasts just 3.3 years. The median salary is around $860,000, significant money, but not generational wealth unless managed carefully. And most players aren't managing it carefully because they were never taught how. The window is short, and the psychological dynamics of sudden wealth are working against them from day one. Here's the first critical factor: most NFL players received their largest income between the ages of 22 and 32, precisely when human brains are least equipped to make long-term financial decisions. Neuroscience shows that the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for long-term planning and impulse control, isn't fully developed until around age 25. Many players are signing multi-million-dollar contracts at 21 or 22 with a brain that is neurologically optimized for present-focused decisions. Add peer pressure, sudden status, and zero financial education, and you have a recipe for decisions that feel completely rational in the moment and devastating in retrospect. One of the most documented wealth destroyers for professional athletes is what researchers call the entourage effect. The moment a player signs a major contract, their social world reorganizes around that money. Childhood friends expect financial support. Family members bring business opportunities. New acquaintances materialize with investment proposals. Agents, financial managers, and advisors, some trustworthy, many not, compete for a percentage of the earnings. Studies of athlete bankruptcies consistently identify trusted person financial fraud as a major contributing factor. Players aren't just losing money to bad decisions. They're losing it to people they trusted, which makes the financial damage inseparable from emotional betrayal. Vince Young was the third overall NFL draft pick in 2006, signing a $58 million contract. His spending became legendary, reportedly spending $5,000 a week at Cheesecake Factory alone, buying a $1.7 million house in cash, loaning millions to family and friends. By 2014, he had filed for bankruptcy. What's striking about Young's story isn't the extravagance, it's the speed. Within 8 years of becoming one of the highest-paid players in the league, he was financially devastated. And Young is not unusual. His story is the story of dozens of NFL players across every era. The names change. The pattern doesn't. Perhaps the most underappreciated factor in athlete financial ruin is identity collapse at retirement. From childhood, football is not just what these players do, it's who they are. The structure, the status, the purpose, the brotherhood, the daily routine, all of it disappears overnight at retirement. Research on athlete retirement consistently documents depression, anxiety, and purposelessness as near universal experiences. And what do people do when they feel empty, purposeless, and stripped of identity? They spend. Not from greed, from pain. The spending is an attempt to fill a void that money cannot fill. And it accelerates the financial destruction precisely when income has stopped. Let's do the math on a typical NFL career. Average career, 3.3 years. Median salary, $860,000 per year. Total career earnings before taxes, about $2.8 million. After federal taxes, state taxes, agent fees, and player association dues, approximately $1.40 to $1.60 million net. That's not $50 million. That's not even $5 million. It's $1.5 million spread over what could be a 50-year post-career life. Managed perfectly, $1.5 million could generate modest but meaningful passive income. Managed the way most 23-year-olds manage sudden money, with lifestyle inflation, family support, and no investment strategy, it disappears in 5 years. Athlete bankruptcy cases are littered with a specific pattern: the bad business investment. A restaurant that loses money for 3 years before closing. A car dealership that never turns a profit. A clothing line that goes nowhere. A real estate development that collapses in a market downturn. Athletes are constantly presented with business opportunities by people who recognize that their combination of capital, fame, and financial inexperience makes them ideal targets. The investments feel like wealth building. They feel active and entrepreneurial. And they almost never work, because successful business requires expertise that money cannot substitute for. The minority of athletes who maintain wealth after retirement share a remarkably consistent playbook. They live on a fraction of their contract income, often 20 to 30%, regardless of how much they earn. They invest the majority in diversified index funds and real estate with professional oversight. They establish strict boundaries with family, documented loans rather than gifts, formal processes for requests. They prepare for retirement while still playing, developing a second identity outside of football. And they work with fee-only fiduciary advisors who are legally obligated to act in their interest rather than commission-based advisors who profit from selling products. Not every NFL story ends in bankruptcy. Roger Staubach, Hall of Fame quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, retired in 1979 and built a commercial real estate empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. His approach was the opposite of the typical athlete pattern: modest lifestyle during playing years, aggressive saving, investment in a field he understood and studied, and a second identity: businessman that he cultivated while still playing. Staubach didn't get lucky. He applied the same discipline that made him an elite quarterback to his financial life. The skills transferred. They always do for those who try. You don't need to be an NFL player for this story to be about you. Every major income spike, a promotion, a business success, an inheritance, a bonus, creates the same psychological dynamics at a smaller scale. The lifestyle ratchet. The requests from people around you. The temptation to invest in things you don't understand because you suddenly have money to deploy. The identity questions that come with changed financial circumstances. The NFL story is extreme. But the pattern is universal. Every person who has ever received significantly more money than they were used to has navigated some version of this terrain. The NFL now runs financial education programs for players. The NFLPA offers seminars, workshops, and access to vetted financial advisors. The results are modest improvements but not transformation, because financial education delivered after the contract is signed and the spending patterns are established is far less effective than financial identity built over years. The lesson isn't that athletes need more financial seminars. It's that financial capability is a developmental process, not a knowledge transfer. You cannot download the discipline and perspective that come from years of managing money through a weekend workshop. Whether you receive an NFL contract or a $50,000 bonus, 3 rules protect the money. Rule 1: don't change your lifestyle immediately. Live exactly as you lived before for at least 6 months while you make a plan. Rule 2: invest the majority, at minimum 50%, ideally 70 to 80%, in diversified, boring, long-term instruments before spending anything beyond existing commitments. Rule 3: establish your giving policy before people ask. Decide what you will and won't fund for family and friends, and stick to it. The players who keep their money almost universally follow these 3 rules. The ones who don't, almost universally don't. The deepest lesson from NFL player financial stories is about purpose. The players who fare best financially are the ones who have something to do after football, a business they're building, a cause they're pursuing, a second career they're developing. This is not coincidental. Purpose provides the structure and motivation that reduces destructive spending. When you have something you're building toward, money is a tool rather than a destination. When money is the destination and you've arrived, there's nothing left to aim for, and spending fills the void until the money is gone. The NFL player story crystallizes one of the most important insights in personal finance: there is a fundamental difference between receiving wealth and building it. Receiving wealth gives you the result without the process. Building wealth gives you both, and the process is where you develop the identity, the habits, the perspective, and the skills that allow the wealth to compound rather than disappear. The lottery winner and the NFL player receive wealth. The person who invests $500 a month for 30 years builds it. And built wealth, for reasons that are now clear, stays built. Your next raise is your NFL draft day at your scale. The same dynamics apply. The lifestyle temptation will be immediate. People around you will notice. Requests will come. Investment opportunities will appear. The financially optimal response is identical to what the successful NFL players do: redirect the increase before you touch it. Set up an automatic additional investment contribution for the exact amount of the raise before you ever see it in your checking account. You'll never miss money that was never part of your lifestyle. And the compound growth on that redirected raise over 30 years will be extraordinary. It would be incomplete to discuss NFL player finances without acknowledging the systemic dimension. Many players come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds where financial management was never modeled. The NFL's revenue-sharing model concentrates wealth among franchise owners while player careers remain short and physically brutal. The same system that generates billions from player performance provides minimal long-term financial protection once that performance ends. Individual financial discipline matters enormously. But the structural context in which these individual decisions are made deserves acknowledgement. 78% of NFL players face serious financial distress within 2 years of retirement. Not because they're reckless. Not because they're uneducated. Because receiving extraordinary money without the psychological foundation, financial identity, and long-term habits to hold it is one of the most reliably destructive financial situations that exists. The lesson isn't about football. It's about what wealth actually requires to stick and why the slow, boring, consistent path to building it is not just safer but fundamentally different in what it produces. If you received $5 million tomorrow, what's the first thing you'd do with it? Comment below honestly. If this video changed how you think about sudden money, hit the like button, it helps more people find this channel. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss what's next. See you there.